Today we have with us Polly Lendacki, who is a lifetime volunteer at the fair. Polly's father, Warren Levengood, was one of the founders of the fair, and we're welcome to have her with us today. Polly, can you tell us about that very first fair that you attended? The very first fair you attended when you were in college.
So it would have been the first year of the fair.
And did you come home from college to go to that fair? Did you come home from college to go to the fair?
Yes, I did. I traveled all night to get it, because that time you were flying by the seat of your pants. You didn't know what you were going to be taking. You didn't know whether you were going to be on a bus, whether you pick up a train. You had no idea, and you didn't know which direction you were going either, because you could either go to Harrisburg and then down to Reading, or you could go to Allentown and come down to Reading. So as I went, I found my direction as I was going.
Okay, so your father helped start the fair. Do you have any memories of the meetings that were happening before the fair?
Well, we had dinner table meetings with the whole family there because everybody was excited about it. So we'd have meetings in the evening with the family. We didn't have other people coming in, not until we began to get some sort of a clue what this was going to turn into.
Okay, so you were also a teacher at the high school after you graduated from college, and you were a home ec teacher, vocational home ec teacher.
Yes.
So how did you get involved with the fair with your home ec students?
Pardon? What?
How did you get involved with the fair with your home ec students, with your students at school? Were they involved with the fair while you taught, when you were a teacher?
I don't quite understand your direction.
Is there a better way of saying that?
Were the students involved?
Were the students involved with the fair when you were a teacher?
The students? Oh yes. You didn't teach a normal schedule that you had, not a schedule and not the content. When the fair started, it was completely fair. I mean, we concentrated on anything that needed to be done for the fair. And since I was in all the prep with everything, that was a lot of help, because I knew from scratch what was happening with the fair.
What kind of things did you have to do to your classrooms to get ready?
We cleared, there were two rooms that were teaching rooms. One was the, I guess you might call it the academic part of it. That was background information. It was a sewing room, basically. And we just, the things were not, you didn't have places exactly to put things in. You had to go on at the seat of your pants. You just had to figure out what you could do to accommodate them, because the school wasn't that old really when I came back to teach, because we had what was considered then a pretty modern home ec department. In fact, from the school that I taught at previously, it was far more advanced. I didn't teach in the rural school when I started. I taught at the in Shillington, in the Shillington schools, and there were no sewing machines, things that you had to really improvise. So when you got it was teaching got a lot easier once they got accustomed to what they were looking for, because I mean, it was an evolving concept that they had at that time. So that it didn't. Years later, we weren't teaching at all what we had when I started. What I was teaching when I started. Yeah.
So, do you remember from some of the fairs that we had bad weather and tents blew over?
Yes. After they had all the tents set up and everything, we thought we were in really good shape. we got these tremendous thunderstorms that came. Wind just knocked the tents right down. And in fact, I got a trip up to the roof of the building so that I could see the damage that we had to deal with. And I found staircases that I didn't know were there in the school. And we went up to the roof and with Fred Stauffer, who was the principal at that time, when he pointed out all the things, and so we went right back down to the classroom and scoured around and got some equipment that we needed, because we were not putting together clothing at that, dresses, aprons, whatever you start with when you're doing home ec. We weren't putting that together. We were doing tents. So we went down to the shoemaker's shop in Oley, which was about halfway up the village, and got heavier needles and thread from him to help us to put the tents back together again. And we had to go out there and just sit there and if we could bring something in, we did, but there wasn't much that you could bring, not when you have a big tent or whatever that you're using. So you just did whatever you hoped it worked, and in a lot of cases it did. I mean, it was, for just starting the fair, it was really shocking. I mean, we didn't start easy, we started the toughest way. Yeah.
Do you remember anything about making meals for the people at the fair? Was that something you were involved in with the home ec class?
No. When they came to me and asked me whether I thought we could do it, the cooking part was easy, because we just took the cooks that were in the home ec. Well, they cooked all the food for the school in the home ec department anyway. So they took all those things that they had there, and we turned all. There were some of the women, the cooks at the school, came down and cooked for the fair too. They knew how to cook quantity foods, so we kept it simple. Mostly it's pork and sauerkraut.
Okay.
Pennsylvania Dutch pork and sauerkraut.
Where was that served then? In the cafeteria of the school?
No, that was not in the. That was on.
Was that in the bingo building, or?
I'm trying to think. It was. No, I'm thinking of the fairgrounds, but this was before the fairgrounds. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to. I can't quite recall that.
Okay.
What we did with. I know we managed to do it, but the details are kind of. That's pretty long ago.
Did you ever do pig racing like Mabel, catching the pigs? Did you ever catch pigs? They used to have a contest where they would catch pigs, greased pigs. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I know Mabel used to catch a greased pig in like the shortest amount of time or something at the fair. That was at the fair, correct? Yeah. You don't recall that?
No, I don't. Okay. I mean, some of the things that happened. The thing I remember about Mabel is that as we were getting all of that done, there's my sister, and she was going to have a good time. She did, and I did manage to get a break and come up and see Mabel catch that little pig and carry her. That was fun. I do remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about your years of judging in the home ec and needlecraft departments?
I did the cooking, canning, cooking, and it depends. Sometimes, we had so many entries that we had to have several judges there. And since I knew quilting, I had done it, but it wasn't one of my passions. I didn't really scramble to go and do quilting. That was one of the things I knew, but I didn't. But it wasn't. I wasn't really that fond of it. I don't think I ever put a whole quilt together, except maybe, well, maybe a small one like a baby quilt. Okay. But I don't think I ever put a whole quilt together. Although Mabel and Marie and I would do quilting. We didn't. I remember when we didn't have patterns, and we wanted to do a quilt. We needed something. My parents went away on a trip somewhere, and so Marie and Mabel and I were home alone, and we decided we were going to make a quilt, but we didn't have a pattern. So I sat down and I made a pattern, and that was they always had a doll baby pattern. We didn't have a pattern, but I found a pattern.
Do you have any other favorite memories from the fair over all your years of attending the fair?
Favorite memory? No, I don't think so. I mean, every year was different. Some years I would, since I was judge, some years I would be judging the cooking, baking, pies, and then canning, and they bring in their dried meats that they had done. Anything you could expect, anything when they brought that in there. The thing never having judged anywhere else except at the Oley Fair, I kind of have make my own
rules.
You know, what am I looking for? I knew what the good things were supposed to look like, but I had never done any judging or anybody, so I didn't have a standard to follow. And that's something that you learn on the way. I got a lot of tips from expert quilters because I could quilt, I knew what it was like, I could do it, but I hadn't zeroed in on it and they said, this is what I'm looking for. I had to learn that. You learn on the fly. I mean, especially at that time, because there was nowhere else you could go to get to, except I used to go up to, I went to Kutztown and checked what they were doing and what they were, we used to go up to Harrisburg to the farm show and see what they were looking for. What did first place look like at each place? And that's you kind of compared those things, and that's how you learn. You learned on the fly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else I should ask that you can think of?
I would ask her how Grandpop got the idea, or not how Grandpop.
How was her father?
How Grandpop and the other guys who started the fair, where did they get the idea from?
Do you remember where your father and everyone else got the idea for the Oley Fair?
I can't pinpoint it. I just know that it was up when they went hunting in the fall. Some of these little places would have a fair going. And that's where he saw the first ones, up in Poconos somewhere. Because that's where he went hunting. So it had to be in the Poconos somewhere that he found it.
Who was probably with him?
Do you remember who was with you? Was with him when he got the idea?
I know he came back and talked to Fred Stauffer. I think that's the place that he, because by that time Fred Stauffer was a very close neighbor. I'd see him sit on his porch each morning reading in the good weather. He'd be reading his newspaper on the side porch. So they were very close, and they could. Of course, he kept an eye on us too.
Do you remember what groups he went to then to propose the idea for the fair?
Pardon?
Do you know what groups, when he came back and they got the idea with Fred, do you remember who they talked to in the community about starting the fair?
No, I don't.
Okay.
That part I didn't know.
Okay.
My dad was a kind of on the tricky side. He could always play a joke on someone, so you never knew you weren't sure that he was serious about what he was saying, because that was his nature. And when you saw him, if you went to a function somewhere, you could always hear where he was before you knew where he was. You could hear his laugh, He laughed louder than anybody. He's a fun-loving guy. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on?
I don't have any more
Okay.
right now. I'm not prepared, I guess.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just didn't know if there's anything else that you thought of that as we were sitting here that we could ask.
The biggest changes from
Oh,
now
that's
until.
What do you think were the biggest changes from the early days to now?
Pardon?
The biggest changes you've seen from the early days to now
The big changes
of the fair?
at the fair.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a couple of years since I was there, since I don't walk that well, but
Or through the years, like what were some of the biggest things? Do you remember it moving from the school to the fairgrounds? Do you remember anything about that?
I can't recall that right now. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. It was always lots of fun.
Lots of freedom. We heard a lot of people talked about the freedom they used to have wandering around the fair.
Yes.
You know, with the kids having freedom walking around the fair.
Of course, since I was helping to judge, I'd get there early, and there were people there. I know they were there all night long, but there were people there not really to enjoy the fair. There were a lot of people. There was always plenty of work to do. That's one thing that if you didn't have, I know that there were times that I thought I would get a break, and somebody would be tapping me on the shoulder. We need you. And so my dad did that a lot. He volunteered the Levin Good family for a lot of things. We knew what it was like.
Did you ever work in any of the food stands?
Did I work at them?
At the food
No, I
stands?
didn't.
Okay.
No, because of all the other things that I did. I didn't work at the food stand.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Polly, for all of your insight on
Oh, you're
the
very
past
welcome.
years, and thank you for coming.
Nice memories.
Very nice.